Brian in Indianapolis. Hey, Brian, thanks for listening to Sirius XM. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Brian. Hi, Tom. This is Brian from Indianapolis. Long-time listener. I started listening to you when I lived in Maryland many years ago. Proud Hoosier progressive. And I really think a lot of times here in the Midwest, a lot of us progressives were forgotten about. There are a lot of progressives in the Midwest.
Absolutely. I grew up in Michigan, and I still,
like Pence land. And there are very few people that know about this man and how dangerous he is more than Hoosier progressives like me. We all know he pushed the so-called Religious Freedom Act here in Indiana, which basically destroyed our state's tourism economy, gave Indiana a very bad image of being an intolerant state. And quite frankly, he decided to run with Trump because he was going to lose here in Indiana.
Oh, yeah, he was down like 30% popularity. I mean, it was
absolutely
totally in the crapper.
Totally. But the reason why I'm calling today, Tom, is that I really want Democrats to really start running more aggressive, muscular campaigns. It just seems like, and I'm a young guy, I'm not even in my 50s, but it seems like Democrats in the past were a lot tougher. It was just whether it was Truman or the Kennedys or Johnson, they just ran more muscular campaigns against Republicans. And they put Republicans on their heels. They played hardball. It just seems like Democrats, we just don't run tough campaigns against these Republicans anymore. And I think the way for us to do that is, and I agree with you about single payer, but I think we need to run a very patriotic campaign where we say, hey, we're going to take our country back from the Russian influence that our current occupant of the White House is truly under. There's no doubt about it. He's truly under the influence of the Russians. I think if we ran a campaign like that, along with pushing economic populism like single payer, I like our chances in 2018 and definitely taking the White House back in 2020. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, step by step. I mean, if you can demonstrate any specific policies that Trump is promoting as a result of Russian influence, go after them. I don't know of any. Do you?
Well, I mean, look at the fact that he's. Well, let's see what happens with the bill that's been passed by Congress.
The sanctions. But that's not him screwing us on behalf of another country. I'm not saying I'm not saying this is not a thing, and I'm not saying that it's not something we should be very concerned about. We should be very upset about, and there needs to be, and I've been saying this from day one, that there needs to be an independent and nonpartisan commission that looks into what's going on. That looks into Russian interference in our election, that looks into Russian oligarch or government involvement with Donald Trump, all of that. But to the point of Democrats winning elections again, the difference between Franklin Roosevelt, Harry Truman, John Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, the muscular Democrats that you're talking about, and the Democratic Party of today, in my opinion, has nothing to do with Russia. It has to do with the fact that back then, Democrats were united around a set of core values that had to do with the labor movement, that had to do with building a middle class, that had to do with pushing back against oligarchy. You know, FDR famously saying, they hate me, and I welcome their hatred, calling them out by name. Harry Truman used to do that. Lyndon Johnson used to do that. Going after these guys. I mean, the way that LBJ went after Barry Goldwater ended up winning, what, 2 states? Something like that. They were able to do that. And then, you know, the corporate influence came into the Democratic Party in a really big way in the late 80s and early 90s. And it diluted the ability of the Democratic Party to say, we're here to fight against the corporations and the billionaires on your behalf, because they were then taking money from the corporations and the billionaires. And that's the existential crisis that the Democratic Party faces right now, is in a post-Citizens United world. In this day and age, in this, post-Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976, Citizens United 2010, in this world where basically money reigns, money rules, that particularly if you're from a large state, there's no way you can win an election without a lot of cash. In that world, how does the Democratic Party survive without the labor unions? Back when Reagan came into office and a third of America was members of a union, the unions had incredible power. They were the major supporters of the Democratic Party and the major funders of the Democratic Party. And that's why Republicans have tried to destroy the post office. It's the largest unionized employer in the United States. It's why they started, the very first thing Ronald Reagan did was his war on labor unions. He went after the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Association. He went after PATCO. And he's been successful. We're now down to 6% in the private sector of employment, of unionization, from 30% or more back in 1980. So that money source for Democrats has been wiped out. And the unions that are left are, frantically just trying to hold on, trying to stay above water. That's been wiped out. So this is the crisis the Democrats are facing. I don't have an easy answer for them. And, other than really going after money in politics.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Brian, thanks for the call. We'll be back.